Russia's war in Ukraine has redrawn borders not only in the map, but also in people's minds. It has revealed weaknesses, reshaped alliances, and forced nations to decide what they truly stand for. As the world keeps debating how and when this war will end, one question remains: what kind of Europe will rise from it? And what place will Ukraine have in that new order? Today we speak with Valerii Pekar, lecturer at Kyiv-Mohyla Business School, entrepreneur and public intellectual, about the West's biggest mistakes, the lessons Ukraine is teaching the world, and the future that may follow this Russian war. Valerii, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, Valerii, straight to the point. How do you define the new geopolitical architecture of Europe today? And if Russia's war in Ukraine lasts for the approximately 5 years, where will Ukraine stand within that in Europe?
Ukrainians told Europeans for 3 years that this war is not a Ukrainian war, but this is European war. But Europeans didn't believe. And since new American administration came into the office, Europeans realized that this is a European war. And Russian dictator Putin indeed helps to understand this, sending drones and missiles to cross European borders. So today, Europe is a rising star in its own security, and Ukraine indeed is a superstar because only 2 countries in the world know how to wage this highly technological, innovative, postmodern war. Ukraine and Russia. Indeed, it's a good idea to have Ukraine not only at their side, but inside their security perimeter.
Valerii, what do you think has been the biggest strategic mistake the West has made about Ukraine? Something that probably we may not hear from the news, in the press, but that every Ukrainian understands.
In my humble opinion, we already mentioned that Ukrainians were sure for years and years that this is a European war, and Europeans thought that this is a local one, that Russia will take Ukraine, and that would be enough for the Kremlin. Another mistake is a belief that it is possible to contain Russia, to deter Russia, but Ukrainians know, Ukrainians learned through centuries that Russia shouldn't be contained or deterred, but should be overcome.
And since talks about ending the war never really stop, does the West have a clear understanding of what the end of the war in Ukraine actually means, and how close is their vision to our vision, to Ukrainian one?
It looks like Europeans and Americans now think more about a ceasefire than about sustainable peace. Because sustainable peace means something more than a ceasefire. Indeed, in modern world, for TV watchers, a war ends when it is no more on TV screens, first pages of newspapers, but that doesn't mean that the war has been stopped. So when we are speaking about sustainable peace, it is not only ceasefire, it is also justice. That means that war criminals should be punished, that reparations should be paid, that all kidnapped children should be back home, that all museum artifacts from Ukrainian history should be back to their locations, and indeed that all territories are back to Ukraine, and Ukrainian territorial integrity and sovereignty should be restored.
Valerii, eventually this war, someday it will end. What are the most realistic scenarios for Ukraine after the Russia's war?
Our research made together with dozens of prominent Ukrainian experts in military diplomacy and economics shows that there are 2 major most probable scenarios. One is called a rotten deal, which means that Ukraine saves its sovereignty, but with some imposed limits. For instance, Ukraine should not join some security alliances or should limit its ability to adopt decisions concerning Russian religious, military, religious, cultural, and political organizations in Ukraine and media. The strong rotten deal is not acceptable for Ukraine, so we are ready for we are ready for many things, and we're flexible, but not in terms of limitations of Ukrainian armed forces or Russian agents being back to Ukraine. But soft rotten deal is better. That means that a ceasefire without specific agreements and recognition of territories to be Russian is in general acceptable as the first step to sustainable peace. Another scenario is called that bees defeat the beer, which means that even in the world without rules and alliances, Ukraine could overcome due to three major factors: Ukrainian innovations, coalition of the willing, and weakness of Russian economy, which is already collapsing.
And what about Russia? If it starts to fall apart soon, is Europe or the United States afraid of a Russian collapse? Are there already any controlled breakup scenarios being discussed in Washington or Brussels?
Russian empire collapsed twice in 20th century. In 1917, it was a chaotic collapse with a lot of risks to all neighbors. And in 1991, it was accurate, managed, controllable collapse, which, maybe not collapse, to dissolution, which brought absolutely no risks, but brought denuclearization of huge territories and economic development of free nations. So it depends on the character of this dissolution. Would it be a chaotic like in 1917, or would it be managed and as in 1991? And today, unfortunately, many analysts in Brussels and Washington, D.C., in London and Berlin, they see just a chaotic scenario because they are so centered on Moscow. And scenario of controlled dissolution means that we should learn also Russian regions, national republics, Russian-speaking regions with strong local identity and strive for freedom and so on. So indeed, controllable dissolution means first primary rebalancing of power between Moscow and regions, which also could lead to a so-called refederalization scenario without dissolution. But to make Russia democratic, it is necessary to make it a federation, not an empire. Different scenarios are possible, and they are studied now. They are studied right now in key capitals. I can say that we have already 4 resolutions of Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe, 2 resolutions of Parliamentary Assembly of OSCE, which insist that only decolonization, deimperialization of Russia is a way to sustainable peace in Europe and to democratic development on territories of this huge country.
Yes. And do you think Ukraine has a real chance to become the Israel of Eastern Europe? I would call it like that. A country that's tech-driven, fast, and, you know, it sets the tone in security and innovations?
Any parallels like that are not so good because there are so different circumstances. Mm-hmm. But if I would accept rules of your game, I would say that Ukraine already is a kind of Israel, because Ukraine is still a democracy fighting with a huge totalitarian state. Ukraine is already an innovative country, and Ukraine is a very strong and united society. This is not bad to wage a war with so big and so powerful enemy for practically 12 years already, 4 years of that full-scale war.
If NATO or the EU were to open a school of modern warfare, what 3 Ukrainian lessons would you include first?
If there would be 3 lessons, that first lesson would be a non-military one. The first lesson should be societies are important because the war is waged not by armies, but by societies. If societies are strong enough, if societies are ready to fight and support their army, then victory is possible. This is the first lesson, and this is a lesson maybe not for NATO generals, but to NATO political leaders. Second lesson is that the era of Second World War and Cold War military approaches and strategies is over. Almost all strategic knowledge of 20th century was made practically not relevant during 4 years of full-scale war, like a role of tanks and other armored vehicles, the role of big battleships, the domination in the air, the high precision weapon, and even the idea, which was the basis of military strategies for a millennia, the idea of hidden consolidation of power before attack is no more relevant. And all these changes were brought just by 3-4 years of this full-scale war. So, as the phrase is, which is attributed to Churchill, is that generals already are preparing to the last war, and there will be never a war like a Second World War, Cold War time. And it is important to emphasize that many political leaders and military commanders in the West are still thinking that this kind of war is a war of poor countries. Russia and Ukraine are poor countries. That is why they use so many drones, they use so many electronic warfare and so on. And we in America and Europe, they think we have so powerful, high precision weaponry that we rich countries could wage war like Desert Storm operation. But this is a big mistake. The war again is total. The war again is highly industrial, and American operations against Iraq army is not a good example for modern warfare. Russian-Ukrainian war is not a war of poor countries. It's a war of 2 innovative technological industrial countries. And this is a new standard of warfare. And the third is that people shouldn't think that the war has to be very short, because the war, after several months of waging, launches a technological innovation cycle. And indeed, that means prolonging the war, because every party of the conflict would like to use what they have developed. War could be long, but it couldn't be permanent. All wars are finished. All wars will be over one day, but it is not possible to end the war having no political idea, no political vision, what is the desirable future. Without a picture of desirable future, the war would continue, and this is the first lesson which we in Ukraine, in Europe and America should learn.
Yeah, I don't want to be delusional, but I really want this war, Russia's war in Ukraine, and as soon as possible, to be honest.
Me too.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Valerii, for your time, for your sharp mind, and for your interesting answers. Thank you so much.